everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be answering questions I got after planning my big 24th. So let's get into it. The first one, how were you able to pull 14 girls from your different friendship groups all together without being afraid? Who said I wasn't afraid? If you ask the girlies, they knew I was a bit concerned. Truthfully, a lot of the girls hadn't met each other, so I was thinking to myself, is this the right thing to do? But at the end of the day, I found out none of my friends fought. I just think it boils down to us sharing similar values. We share the same faith. I don't know, it just went really, really well. So I was initially concerned. I literally put it in the get guide. I spoke about it. I spoke about if we have issues with one another in the Airbnb, please let's just take the high road. I don't really know if anyone ended up having issues with anyone, to be very honest, but I'm sure they probably just took the high road because we're there to celebrate, we're in there to fight. Next one, how to financially prepare for an event. You have to work backwards. You need to establish a budget, and you can't establish a budget without really knowing what the cost of things are like. So initially, you need to reach out to vendors. You need to know what you don't want to do before you reach out to vendors. Let's say I want to have a luxurious birthday, kind of like what I did. You need to reach out to vendors that align with your taste, your aesthetic, and find out the prices. When you compile all these prices for the vendors you want to use, you will then know if this budget is realistic for you or not. When you find out if it's realistic, you can either cut it down or just find other vendors. Now, when you've done all the vendor work and you know your budget, then you can start planning. Because by your budget, you can know how much you're going to save weekly, daily, or even monthly, depending on how much you earn and how you earn money. So this is very, very important, and that's how I think you can financially prepare for an event. Without knowing a budget, you cannot work because you don't know how much you need to be putting aside towards your goal. And I think that knowing a budget also determines your strictness to an extent, because when you know that I'm going to have this event, I can't just use my savings because I'm saving towards this event. I've told people, I've done all these things. That's how you financially prepare. I also think that having the people you're planning the event with or your guests knowing what you're doing is so important because they kind of hold you accountable. You can't have guests you've told you're going to have an event, then you're eating out of your savings money. You just can't do that. So I think something that's really, really important is saving, informing people, knowing your budget, starting early. Let me say if you start 2 weeks to the event and you want to plan a £10,000 event and you're not a billionaire, you can't plan effectively because you wouldn't have any savings towards that event. That is just wishful thinking. And the earlier you start planning, the earlier you know your budget, the earlier you know how much you can put aside towards this budget. That's my advice. Early planning, savings, tracking your savings. Personally, I also had a savings tracker that helped me visualize my goals. I'll be inserting the prompt in my description. I use Claude to do it. The next question goes, the thought that went into creating the activities and gifts and the budgeting process. I'm sure anyone that saw this event would know that there was a huge faith element. We went to church, we had a romance game, we had scripture pens, we also had these Bible emergency numbers, and we had evangelism day. Faith was a core element of the activities for the celebration because my faith is very important to me, and because we're women of the same faith, it was just an opportunity for us to glorify God through the celebration. Activities, truthfully, I just want everyone to have fun, and from the reviews I see that 2 people had noted that they did have fun, and those are just 2 people that remembered to write it. So I was really happy. I also asked them for feedback on activities, on what we thought we could do. The Pilates was never my intention and was never my idea initially, but one of the girls suggested it, so I just wanted everyone to have fun. That was my thought behind the activities. I also wanted us to have places that were really aesthetic, because aesthetic is really something I'm super big on. So I wanted places that were really aesthetic, places that looks really, really good. Those were the things I thought about when it came to the activities. The gifts as well, faith-based. I mentioned the faith-based elements I had in the gifts, but the gifts, genuinely, I just wanted people to feel seen and to just have something they could take away as a keepsake when they were done with the event. So the thought that went into it wasn't necessarily individualistic because the gifts weren't tailored to their personalities, but the things that were in the box were suitable for everyone. Do you understand me? So when I was picking the gifts, I just thought to myself, what would be nice in a souvenir box that I'm gifting my girls? It wasn't so narrowed down. Do you understand me? But I think they really liked it because I noted from 3 reviews that people talked about their personalized souvenir boxes. So I was really happy about that. How to balance being the planner for your event and also living in the moment. I lived in the moment to the T because all the planning was already done. By January, like I had already told you guys in my previous videos, the planning was majorly practically done. I had sent the final documents, so I was just chilling. I was just making sure that things went according to plan that day, which wasn't hard because everyone already knew everything. From the reviews as well, you would also see my guests say that no one was ever confused. Everyone knew what they were supposed to be doing, so everything was very chill for me. Early planning helped me to live in the moment. Next question was how I picked my outfits and the locations for the birthday activities. My outfits, I'm my personal stylist, so I just pick things I like. Truthfully, that's how I pick my outfits. Pick things I like based on the theme. Now, how I picked the locations, I've already mentioned that I'm very aesthetic heavy. Even how I picked the accommodation, aesthetic was a priority. For locations, a lot of things were important to me. For feeding locations, if the food tasted good, but primarily the aesthetic, I'm going to be honest with you. For the accommodation, if the beds were big enough, the location and the aesthetic was literally like top. But I was really happy that the aesthetics turned out really, really nice. It was really luxurious. It was really my vibe, and the girls loved it as well. Someone mentioned to me in person that the Pilates outfits were so coordinated, and how did I manage to do that? Truthfully, the Pilates was micromanaged. I just have to say the truth. The Pilates outfits were micromanaged. This person had told me that it looked like we got all our outfits from the same place, and we didn't. They were different brands, truthfully. And it's crazy because this is how it was. This is how it happened. The Pilates outfits looked this in sync because my DMs looked like this. Yes, we had a lot of back and forth. People would send me their outfits. Is it on theme? Is this the baby pink? Is this the shade of baby pink we're supposed to use? And yeah, it was a lot, but I think everyone looked so beautiful and it looked like we got it from the same place. For someone to tell me that, that means that it looked so in sync. And I think that happened because before we bought our Pilates, we had clarity. We knew this is the baby pink, and if you were unsure, you would just ask me and I'll show you this is the baby pink. I already also compiled a Pilates sheet, like I mentioned, of different options that were within the baby pink from stores in Nigeria, so people already knew what to do. They already knew the shade of baby pink, so it wasn't that hard. And if they were confused, like I said, they would just ask me. Someone asked me how I was able to film all my birthday, pre-birthday, post-birthday series when everything happened to me that I mentioned in the video what went wrong. Truthfully, because I had planned early. Early planning saves you a lot. Because I had planned early, I had already written what I wanted to film in February, so it wasn't hard to film when the time came. Despite all the disruptions and everything that went wrong, since I already knew what I wanted to do because I had planned early and written it down, it wasn't hard for me. It wasn't hard filming the series as long as I knew what I wanted to do. Another question I got from one of the guests this time was how was I able to find this beautiful accommodation? Truthfully, research based on the things that were important to me. Accommodation, bed size, aesthetic, and the budget. Those were the things I used to research, and I was researching. I had started this research since December. It was a lot, but I was happy I was able to look at the options and choose one that was going to make the girls happy and me happy as well, because my three things were met. Was it within my budget? Did it fit the aesthetic I was trying to go for? And were the beds big enough? And all these boxes were checked. I got a question that was very similar to the how to prepare financially for an event question. This question was the thoughts behind the budgeting for the event. Truthfully, I think everyone has different priorities. And my priority for this event was the vibe I was going for and how I wanted people to feel. And because the vibe I was going for was more tailored towards a luxury event, most of the things I had to pick were like one of the most foundational decisions, like I mentioned, the accommodation had to give that vibe. And if you know you're leaning towards a luxury event or an event that is not, if you're leaning towards something that looks slightly high end, even in an event, you know that the budget is not going to be casual. So because of I knew this, I already knew that it was going to be spend heavy. Does that make any sense? If you know you're just doing something very simple and it's not going to be spend heavy, then you already know that. But because I knew what I was looking for, I knew the kind of activities that were going to take place, I knew that it was going to be spend heavy. And because I knew this, it also helped me to plan, budget, save appropriately. Those are the questions I got. Thanks for listening, guys.